Linktree gets underway with the rookie test here at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. And we're all set to go. As we get ready for TV pictures, let's cross over to the world feed and join Tom Brooks alongside Karun Chanhok.
Here this weekend, you can see we are right by the sea as well, so there's a fair breeze on the western coast here in Jeddah. And I wonder how conditions are going to adapt over the course of this weekend. It's actually quite cool in the air now compared to the heat that we had earlier on here today. David Coulthard also joining us in the commentary box. David, looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here for rookie free practice. Just looking at Jamie Chadwick out on track for the first time. And as we can see, also our first look at this Jeddah circuit.
Yeah, great to be able to see this this new track. Big challenge for all, and I'm going to assume they have well simulated this prior to coming to the event. And of course, the good old-fashioned track walk with the engineers. It's always a good bonding moment, isn't it, to go around and sniff the tarmac, look at the curbs, and you actually can learn a lot from that as well in this modern world when we talk mainly about the sim practice that they do ahead of time. But there's something about getting out there and looking at the lay of the tarmac. Like, for instance, there you can see there's a drain that crosses over part of the apex of the corner. It's very difficult to simulate that grip change in the virtual world.
And also, I think when you've got subtle camber changes or subtle elevation changes, things like that, it's quite hard to pick that up unless you do walk around the circuit or go around on a bicycle, for example. You know, then you can feel the resistance in your legs as you're pedaling around. So, absolutely, I think, you know, having that first look, and this will be useful for the race drivers as well, having a first bit of data from these cars going around.
Yeah, the teams will absolutely be using it. So for the drivers right now, this is an opportunity for them to shine, to put their name in a positive light with their individual teams that they're testing for. But beyond that, selfishly, the race drivers that are not out there right now and their engineers will be going, right, what is the data we're getting? Have we simmed well in terms of you know, our prep and bringing tires in and things like that? Or do we need to go back to the drawing board?
Absolutely. Nice to see Deno Kvyat back out in a single-seater racing car for the first time in a few years. Raced with Lamborghini in the FIA World Endurance Championship over the last couple of seasons. Best finish of 10th at the 24 Hours of Le Mans last year. Not, though, his first time in a Formula E car. If you remember back to the Rookie Berlin test in 2023, and also the Rome Rookie Free Practice. He did a couple of sessions there for the Neo 333 outfit, now, of course, known as the Cupra Kiro team. So good to see Deno Kvyat out on track here, making his way through turn 13. This is where the attack mode will be activated in the race.
Yeah, and they'll start doing some early tests, including, you know, the pit lane entry, for example, because we have got a pit stop for the first time back in Formula E after many years since Gen 1. So, you know, they'll use this session at some point. I'm sure we'll see the drivers testing the pit lane entry, and we'll give the engineers a chance to start doing some number crunching on the pit lane lost times, and as well, of course, the attack mode. You know, how much time do you lose by running wide through that turn 13?
Absolutely. Well, so just under 35 minutes left of this session. Let's get down to the pit lane for the first time this weekend, and indeed this season, to Saunders CB. He's catching up with Jake Hughes from Maserati.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, Jake Hughes, there's cars out on track, yours included, but you're not in it. Tell me about what you can learn from this side when you're doing a rookie free practice session.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's actually Stoffel's car driving, so he's sweating out the back there at the moment. No, Teo will do a great job, but no, for us, I mean, there's always, it's first race with Pit Boost this weekend, so there's a lot to learn up and down the pit lane for everyone. Obviously, it's kind of an extra practice session that we don't normally get, so trying to understand how we left the simulator in pre-event, how we arrived, or how we will arrive come FP1 later on. We should be able to take a head start already, and yeah, with Teo driving the car, I'm sure we'll be able to do that.
I mean, you're testament to the success of this program, coming through as a rookie yourself into a full-time seat. So could we be looking at the future of Formula E ahead of us?
Absolutely. I mean, for me personally, it was probably the rookie test I did in 2019 and 2020 is a big reason why I'm here now. You know, I learned a hell of a lot. I introduced myself to a lot of people up and down the pit lane. And yeah, fast forward a few years later, I was in the race seat, and yeah, I can trace that very much back to my first rookie test, so I'm sure the guys will be hopefully targeting that as well.
Now, I saw you just a second ago when the car came in, first pit boost of the weekend. You were watching on like a hawk. What were you looking out for?
I'm just watching to see our dash, and without giving too much away, trying to understand it's all making sense and working as it should really. But Yeah, Teo did a good job. It's his first one practicing that as well, and yeah, we'll already have some good data for that.
Right, keep an eye on the time sheets. Thanks, Jake.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you to Jake Hughes. Thank you to Saunders Carmichael Brown down in pit lane there as well. As he said, completely right there. A testament to this rookie free practice sessions and how influential they can be in securing a drive. If Jake Hughes, as I said, didn't have those sessions for McLaren a few years ago, there's a high chance we may never have seen him on the Formula E grid. And I should imagine that McLaren will be looking quite closely at the Irishman Alex Dunn.
Yeah, and you know, he's very, very quick, very talented driver. I think he's former F4 champion, isn't he, Alex Dunn, in the British F4 Championship. So he's got good junior Formula pedigree. Yeah, interesting to see how he gets on. Kush Maini here in the Mahindra, faster than anybody at the moment, and he was actually on pole here, Tom, wasn't he, in the Formula 2 race? I remember when we were here, David, you were here as well, back in April 2024, he qualified on pole, so he knows his way around the full circuit here, or the longer version of the circuit, and so far he's done a very, very good job straight away.
You can see the dust there just kicking up on the apex of the corner as Maini makes his way through that final chicane. 19 turns in total at this Jeddah Corniche circuit as Maini goes to the top of the pile by 1.1 seconds over Zach O'Sullivan down towards the first corner. Just seeing Kush pushing the limits there, getting a little bit out of shape through one of the chicanes.
Yep, small mistakes coming through as we welcome you back up now. We've got our TV pictures sort of working up here in the commentary box, so I suppose we could take a sort of working as opposed to we don't want it, you know, falling off again, so to speak. So here we go then. What are we going to expect in this weekend's action? It's going to be dramatic, it's going to be action-packed, and certainly I'm looking forward to it. I hope you all are back at home as well. We're in for an absolute treat here in Saudi Arabia. As for some reason our practice graphic has disappeared. See, never try and get anything working on the Formula E website because it just starts crashing on you to come into it. There we go. Hello everybody. So this session then features Kush Maini, Zach O'Sullivan, Jamie Chadwick, Danny Kvyat, Jack Crawford, Thomas Prine as well, Alexander Dukes coming in, Tatiana Calderon, Mikael Jensen, Gabriel Mini, and Teo Porcher. Kvyat's across the line now and goes second fastest on a 1:21.868 to go over their fastest. Kush Maini still top as we look at Jean-Eric Verne. They'll all get their chance to head out onto the circuit fully later on as well. This is the rookie session. Tatiana Calderon into the pits. Just 10 cars out there on the track. I'll hand back over to the world feed and continue shifting around the entire boost of it all so that everybody gets a chance to talk here on the broadcast.
Talking about how they're keeping an eye on it. There is Porsche. So that's the
Porsche.
Sorry, that's Prining. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out to see if he's got some sort of an issue of that with their program.
Yeah, maybe we'll send Saunders down to have a look. Just under half an hour to go then in this session. So looking at Thomas Prining making his way down into the first series of corners. One of the older drivers, one of the older rookies out in this session at the moment, 26 years old, so he's not exactly past his prime, shall we say. He's still very much a spring chicken. He's a former double DTM champion, but also was a former test and development driver for the Takoya Porsche team back in Season 6 in Gen 2. But this, as I understand it, is his first time out in the Gen 3 car, and now indeed in the Gen 3 Evo car. So very different machine to what he drove a handful of years ago. He makes his way through. This is the chicane that we're nicknaming the bus stop down through this back straight section, through turns 9, 8 and 9, and then 10 and 11. And then on towards the next run into turn 13. It's a straight, but it's not a straight, as you can see, because it curves very long to the left. And I was having a look at it earlier when we saw the drivers going around for a shakedown session, David. It's so wide through there, there's a good possibility you could see drivers possibly going 3-4 wide.
I hope so. Yeah, I think that's what we're all hoping for, and based on the season, first couple of races, then we've seen a lot more on-track passes and action generally. You can just see there, Prining not stealing quite so much of the painted pink area there on the way into the chicane as we've seen some of the others, but they'll naturally find what is the, how much tarmac can I use on that entry phase without leaving yourself exposed in the braking.
What do you think the regular teams and drivers, who we saw them watching on the pit lane a few moments ago, what are they going to be learning from this session before they go out for free practice one later tonight?
Well, just watching this, they'll be looking at sort of, you know, curb riding, general reaction of the car. They help build confidence. Drivers are very, very clever at being able to pick up from the body language of a competitor's cars.
Well, there is current championship leader Antonio Felix da Costa with Preining out in his car at the moment. And nicely, Teo Porcher out on track for the first time as well. Had a bit of a year in the wilderness last year after winning the 2023 Formula 2 Championship with ART. Formula 1 seat didn't come his way, and sort of sat here wondering where his next steps in single-seater racing are going to be. There's a good possibility, if things go well, that maybe a Formula E seat could be on the cards in the future.
Yeah, absolutely, may well be. You know, I believe he's got some Formula 1 opportunities coming up, again in a sort of reserve and simulator role. But yeah, I think he was hugely disappointed that the IndyCar program didn't work out for him, and he does see, you know, a potential future career here in Formula E, which is why he's here trying to advertise his services.
Not the first time that he's actually been in contention for a Formula E seat. Teo Porcher was in contention for a seat with Nissan for season 9 after testing their Gen 3 car, but eventually that went the way of Sasha Fenestraz. Now, as we can see over at the Maserati team, there is Cyril Blaze, team principal, on the right-hand side of your picture. See what Maserati are going to be able to do here this weekend. Steady start to their 2025 campaign, 8th currently in the team standings with a handful of points. It's quite bunched up at that sort of section of the team's championship at the moment, so there's a good chance with the 2 races, our first double header of season 11, for that to change here.
Just look at the purple lights in the back of that Jaguar driven by Jamie Chadwick. That indicates where she's using the attack mode at the moment, so for anyone new to Formula E, that's a good way to spot if the drivers are using the extra power of 350 kilowatts and also 4-wheel drive, and that should take Chadwick to the top of the times, indeed it does.
So Chadwick then goes to the top of the pile, just under 5 tenths of a second quicker than Kush Maney at the moment. Mikkel Jensen in the Cupra Kiro in 3rd position at the moment as well. You can see the field relatively spread out as it stands for now, but still plenty of time as this session develops. And of course, as we head into night time as well, the circuit conditions, track temperature, air temperature are going to be getting a lot cooler as we head into the evening. You can see a pit boost demonstration here for Zach O'Sullivan in the Envision machine at the moment. So in the race conditions, what drivers will be doing is coming into the pit lane. They'll come to a stop for just over 30 seconds or so. They'll take an extra 10% worth of energy on board and then go back into the race. That's the same for every team and every driver. And we were talking about this earlier on, David. The interesting thing is that drivers' teams, they can't double stack. They have to pit 1 car per team per time. So teams have got to work out who gets priority.
Yeah, and I don't think it's entirely clear right now at this stage of the season who is that person in terms of, is it the driver that's ahead on racetrack at that time? Are you going to roll the dice and presume, hope that there's a safety car, and therefore you get the advantage of you know, everything stacked up together when you come back out on track? We believe the FIA are going to make sure that somebody doesn't get a big advantage out of that, to even neutralise holding the safety car to allow them to take their pit boost. There's so much that remains to be seen.
I think the other thing is, even if the order does get affected by, you know, one driver having a less optimal strategy than their teammate, what we've seen so far, Tom, is with the new attack mode, track position doesn't really matter. You know, we saw, was it Nick Cassidy in Brazil? He made 7 places up in 1 lap by having attack mode when other people didn't. So actually, you know, unlike in some other categories where giving up 2, 3, 4, 5 places of track position can have a hugely detrimental effect on your end result, here, actually, you've still got plenty of opportunity to make it back up.
And there's nothing in the rules that stipulates drivers have to come into the pit lane, do the pit boost, and then they can take their attack modes. They can do that at any point during the race, providing, of course, that they're not, you know, under safety car conditions or indeed conditions where the attack mode isn't allowed. So there is a possibility you could see drivers, you know, going and doing attack modes before they come in for those pit stops. So we'll see how it's going to work out. There's a lot of variables and a lot of strategic elements that the teams, both here on the ground in Saudi Arabia and also back at base for the teams as well, they're going to have to be working out at the moment. This is Mikkel Jensen then in the Cupra Kiro. Look forward to seeing what the Danish driver is going to be able to do. Formerly competed with Peugeot in their hypercar class last year. Just finished in 3rd place in Bahrain. His last time driving a single-seater car, though, was back in 2016 in Formula 3 with JBMotorsports. So it's been a long time that he's been in the car. So not a lot of expectation on his shoulders, but I'm sure he'll be relishing the opportunity to be back in a single-seater.
Yeah, but with low expectation, there's an even bigger opportunity to impress. He's in the car because they obviously feel he's a safe risk on a circuit where you could damage the car if you make a mistake. It is a more open street circuit than many, as we get a nice overhead there of smoking tyres as he leaves his pit box.
The drive to survive shot, that, isn't it? Thomas Preining making his way out of pit lane there as we look at Tatiana Calderon in the Lola Yamaha Apps machine. Currently the slowest of the drivers out on track, but as we said, still plenty of time for that to be set to change. I imagine there's going to be some nervous drivers on the pit wall and in the garage at the moment. Nick Cassidy's car being driven by Jamie Chadwick, but the last thing you want is a driver to end up biffing it off into the wall. This is an example of what we're going to be expecting for pit boost in the races then.
Yeah, did you notice the mechanic of the lollipop going around the side of the steering wheel? I think it's because the car has to go into a certain mode or a certain state of being in a, you know, prepared to take on the 600 kilowatts of charge. So there's actually, it's not actually as instantaneous as you pull up and they plug straight in. You know, the car has to be ready to be charged up, and there we go, hands at the ready, put the plug out. Yeah, and then practicing changing the front rings.
So this is an interesting point actually, because in the rules you can come into the pit lane, do your pit boost, but for example if you have a penalty you have to serve that before you plug the car into charge.
Which, by the way, Antonio Felix da Costa and Lucas Pigassi didn't know. I was telling them this before the session, and Lucas went, wait, so I can do the penalty during the pit stop? I said, well, yeah, you've got to, I guess, I mean, he's got a drive through, it's a bit different, but yeah.
But then also repairs of the car have to be done after the pit stop have been made. So that's what the Jaguar team there were just practicing, putting another front wing on, seeing how quickly they can do it. You know, I suppose the ideal scenario there that you want to have is if you come into the pit lane that you've then suddenly got a safety car so you can catch up to the rest of the pack, because obviously the time that you're going to lose relative to everybody else if you have to make repairs to your car or serve a penalty is you don't.
The body language of the Calderon there in the Lola car just looks very tentative. It's almost like been told to keep well away from the barriers, which in a circuit like this means keeping well away from the apex. So taking a fairly cautious approach to building up to speed.
Yeah, not the first time that we've seen Tatiana in a Formula E car this season. She was part of the all-women's test in Harama for pre-season testing, driving for Maserati on that occasion. I had a brief word with her before I came up to the commentary box to the start of this session, and she said, you know, just been doing a lot of work on the simulator, getting used to a different car, different powertrain, different team and so on, just trying to integrate myself as best as she possibly can. Anyway, just under 20 minutes left of this session as we see the drivers, different powertrain, different... Well, this is Alex Dunn in the neon McLaren car, just coming across the timing line, ready to begin a build lap by the looks of things. And the steely eyes there of Ian James, team principal for neon McLaren, down in pit lane as well. So let's head down to Saunders. He is in the Jaguar TCS Racing Garage with team principal James Barkley. I beg your pardon, sorry, we'll come to that a little bit later on. We'll look at Théo Pourchaire out on track, down in towards turns 1 and 2. Now, DC, in Formula 1, we saw this being so tight and bottlenecky during the first couple of laps in the race. I should imagine we're going to be expecting much of the same in Formula E.
Yeah, I think if there's ever a place where drivers sometimes can have a moment of you know, not quite being fully with it, it's in the first lap, first run to the first corner. It's a mesmerising moment actually. You would imagine we would be sort of very present, but from lights out to getting through the first corner, in many cases you're sort of an automatic pilot, which probably explains a lot of why we see some incidents.
Yeah. I was just trying to think. I think so much of it is also because you're having to quickly react to other people, aren't you? You know, you can't control your own actions, but you can't control the ducking and diving of the people around you. So we do see a bit of that. Pourchaire on a quick lap at the moment, so he's 6 tenths up in the first two sectors on Chadwick's time. The circuit will get cleaned up as well, of course. This is, although I think, Tom, I'm right in saying the track itself is built the entire year round.
Correct.
You know, these fences and blocks, unlike most street circuits, they're actually present all year round.
Well, this is the problem we had in Diriyah. If you remember, last year we went there, and the first session was essentially just track cleaning because drivers, there was so much dust on the circuit. Here, we don't have that, fortunately. So there's a bit of dust, but comparatively, they're not spending the first half of the practice session cleaning the circuit.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we're down to the 118s now, and that's a good chunk from where we started, wasn't it? We were in the 125s at the start of the session. So the track is cleaning up, there's no doubt about it. I think some of the estimates I heard earlier were 115s by the time we get down to qualifying with the dual and the extra power you get there.
Just looking at Daniel Kvyat then making his way through these final series of chicanes. He's in a push lap at the moment, so he's in attack mode, the full 350 kilowatts and also four-wheel drive. And you can see visibly how much more traction he's got compared to two-wheel drive. No sliding around at all. Put your foot down, plant it towards the bulkhead, and exactly see where the car takes you. Just hopping over the curbs here. He's actually in Maximilian Gunter's car is Kvyat at the moment. One of the beauties about this being a night race as well is we get clear visors, so we get to see the driver's eyes.
Have you got a thing for driver's eyes?
Not publicly, anyway.
Do now.
I do, yeah, exactly, you're right. So, Zach O'Sullivan out on track then for Envision, coming across the timeline 3.1 seconds slower than Teo Porcher, who's top of the pile, down in the high 1 minute 18s. Making his way through those first series of corners. And you can see nighttime turning into, or dust turning into nighttime rather, at the moment. It's a long hairpin bend, and you see quite a late apex through that corner, the wall awaiting the drivers on the outside, then through into this next series of turns before we head towards the bus stop chicane.
I think that's quite nice about the nature of that hairpin is it lends itself to a wider entry, which then lends itself for someone thinking, I'll have a dive down the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to seeing what that will happen. This bus stop chicane actually does remind me of the old Spa bus stop chicane as the drivers make their way through, especially that second part of it, launching on to this curved straight down into turn 13. As I said, this is where attack mode will be activated, and O'Sullivan going into that attack mode and that four-wheel drive grip as well. And then through into the penultimate chicane here for O'Sullivan. And we saw a few drivers actually a couple of minutes ago curb hopping a little bit over the inside, just going through on this curb here on the right-hand side. It sort of unsettles the car a little bit. You can see the balance just not looking particularly brilliant for some of the drivers, but seemingly for Zach O'Sullivan, no such worries at all, as he now begins his first full-power attack mode lap.
So he's off to go racing in Japan this year, isn't he, Zach O'Sullivan? I think in the Super Formula Championship, he's come off the back of a season in F2 where, unfortunately, I think he had some
funding issues,
budget issues, and he didn't finish the season with ART. So he's yeah, I think again another driver who could see a future single-seater career here in Formula E.
Yeah, we can see what Zach O'Sullivan is going to be able to do over the course of this session. One of two Britons out on track, also Jamie Chadwick, who's the test driver for Jaguar TCS Racing, also previously tested for Neo as well. She raced in the Indy Next Series with Andretti last year, taking a win at Road Atlanta. And speaking of Jaguar TCS Racing, let's head down to Saunders CV, who is now catching up with team principal James Barkley.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, James, we've got Jamie with you for the weekend. Loads of experience there, multiple disciplines, and clearly it's paying off. She's currently second in the timings.
Yeah, listen, Jamie's a real professional. Arguably the fastest women in world motorsport at the moment, and just generally a fantastic racing driver. So, yeah, it's nice to have her back with us. Did a great job in her armour at the test there, and obviously she was with us as a rookie many years ago as well in Marrakesh. So she's had a bit of mileage in the Gen 2 car, and now a couple of outings in the Gen 3 car. It's great to see her building confidence.
What sort of data are you getting from this session that can then go into the rest of the weekend?
Yeah, well, this is an important session. It's our first time with literally wheels on track here, so a chance to correlate what we've seen in our simulator to the real world here. And yeah, that gives us a good baseline understanding of where we on the money with our simulations, where we off, and it starts to give us a bit of a direction in terms of the approach with the car that we thought was right, and see if that's correct.
I noticed something that's going to potentially be quite instrumental when it comes to the pitch stops and the charging, is that you use the example of changing your nose at the same time. That has to be done within the rules after or the pit charge itself, but that's good to get that practice in early doors.
Yeah, you have to kind of go through as many scenarios now because they will come our way over the course of a season, right? So exactly, what is the correct procedure? We also like to sometimes just test the group. So we'll surprise the mechanic group late in the preparation. Yeah, they think it's going to be a stop, and we'll say, actually, assume you've got front wing damage now, and you kind of throw those challenges. It's about perfect preparation to prevent a poor performance, and that's what these sessions are about. This is our driving range if we're playing golf, or our tennis court if we're practicing. So we've got to get as much practice in as we can.
I saw you talking to Jeff before. We give him the feedback about pit charge so far, pit boost.
Yeah, honestly, he's coming down to see how the stop's working and how Jamie's getting on. Obviously, really you know, a big supporter of promoting female talent, of course, as well. So yeah, keen to see how Jamie's getting on after the test in Harama. So yeah, nice to see Jeff down here and yeah, bring him behind the scenes, so to speak.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, James. Thank you to Saunders as well. One of the two female drivers out on track is Jamie Chadwick, the other being this lady, Tatiana Calderon, for Lola Yamaha Apt as she makes her way through. Personal best in that second sector. She comes across the timeline. She's in an attack mode lap at the moment and does indeed improve in position and time. Goes up to 8th fastest with just under 12 minutes left of this session. Just looking here inside the Neil McLaren garage at the moment. This is Alex Dunn, the Irish driver, racing for, or testing for that team, I should say, in this session. Competed in F3 last year with MP Motorsport, finished at 14th in the championship with a couple of podiums, but now racing in F2 for the first time this season, making his way up that junior single-seater ladder. And you never know what may happen. McLaren very good at promoting internally within their driver development program. Look at the likes of Jake Hughes, came through from doing rookie tests in Formula E, ended up on the grid and actually got a pole position here in his rookie season back in 2023 as well. So opportunity knocks here for Alex Dunn. Likewise, Kushmani as well in the Mahindra.
He's really hustling, isn't he?
He's not hanging about.
He's, you can see just the body language of the car. As David was saying earlier, you saw Tatiana giving the walls a wide berth and just not really attacking the curbs as much. And in contrast, you see Kush really hustling the car around. And what's he done there on that lap? On 20.3, which is, if you consider lap time in 300 kilowatt sort of race mode, that is probably the quickest lap we've seen in that mode.
Yeah, his personal best lap time in this session for Kushmani at the moment. So, David, we're now in night time. The sun has set here at Jeddah. It means the air temperature, the track temperature is going to be dropping a little bit. Is that a help or a hindrance for the drivers?
Well, I think it's more, in terms of the driver, it's about what the tyres are doing. The contact patch, the track will still be rubbering in, cleaning up. You know, unlikely they're getting much, I wouldn't have thought, overheating of the tyre crew. And you've got a bit more experience of how these tyres actually perform out on track. But really, it's with the amount of lighting you have. My experience of driving under night lights in Singapore and my final year in Formula 1, you're just so focused on all the really important things, like where am I braking, what apex am I heading for, and how quickly can I get the throttle on exit.
Yeah, I mean, the tyres this year are different to what we've had in the past. They are a bit softer, both in terms of construction and compound, I think. So you do have to manage a bit more than you needed to last year. But the track layout we've got here hasn't got these long, sweeping, fast corners in Formula E terms like we had in Mexico, where in the race we did see, you know, the front left tyre in particular struggling there. I don't think that's going to be an issue here. There's more sort of inline braking and short, sharper corners.
Yeah, it's a very Formula E style circuit, if I may use the term. You know, a lot of stop-starty sort of stuff, especially with the chicanes in this final section. You say in Mexico, a bit of an anomaly with the faster sweeping corners. And also, if you look back to 12 months ago when we were last in Saudi Arabia at Diriyah, that first sector in particular, it was a bit of a bobsled run through there with a fast sweeping series of corners. Here at Jeddah, a little bit different in terms of the circuit characteristics. So looking here at Jamie Chadwick making her way through that final chicane and across the timing line then here. She's in a push lap and attack mode lap at the moment. You can see that indicated with the magenta lights at the back, which turn to blue, and she improves in time up to third quickest. Mikkel Jensen also on an attack mode lap at the moment in the Cupra Kiro. See what he is going to be able to do as he comes out of the final corner. and across the side of the line. Currently second fastest, was fastest overall in that second sector, and goes faster still in the third sector. So now we're coming into the final stages here of this rookie free practice session. Drivers beginning to turn the wick up a little bit.
Yeah, lap times dropping as they take more risk, get more experience. And, well, this is the moment for them to really start shining as we get into the last several minutes of this test.
Board here with Kushmani then. Out of the final corner he comes, just beginning to start on a build lap at the moment. Goes across the line, fourth quickest then for him as it stands. Let's have a look at a super slow-mo replay of Thomas Preining then in the Tag Heuer Porsche. A bit of a snap of oversteer on the apex there.
Yeah, he's over the front tyre on the way in, so it looked to me like it was pushing, and then as inevitably everything slowed down and the front picked up grip, the rear said, oh, okay, now we're the limit. And you saw this sidewall shaking as the tyre actually slid across the surface of the tarmac.
Just saw Antonio Felix Acosta there with his headphones on the garage. I assume listening to conversations on the team radio rather than Taylor Swift, but you never know.
Is that your choice?
I know it's DaCosta's choice.
Okay.
Yeah, I never listened to music whilst in the car. I often had a song in my head, but how are you, Corinne?
I can't ever say that I did, no.
I always wondered if you ended up with commentary piped in, you know, just to find out what was going on in the other end of the races.
The criticism I would have received constantly would have been too much for me.
So looking here at Preining then coming through this series of chicanes then, and down and towards the last one.
So I think he's just gone into the attack mode, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So this next lap will be interesting to see. He's sixth fastest at the moment on a 20.18, and so we'll see with those purple lights flashing. We'll get to see what this next lap does. We saw him miss the apex and had that snap of obviously on the last lap. This time around, gets the curb, but still a little bit untidy over that curve. Pretty neat though on the exit as he gets the four-wheel drive traction up towards the hairpin of going forward, then dropping slightly downhill into this flowing sequence through 5 and 6, and he's fastest of anybody in the first sector, Tom.
Yeah, looking pretty handy here is Thomas Preining then making his way down through this series of sweepers before this chicane awaits, through into the first part of the bus stop, then the second, and then on the long run down in towards turn 13 where that attack mode will be activated, blasting past the red seat on the right hand side for the driver. You see a splatter of water actually on the camera lens there, such as the wind, which has been quite windy here today. Out of turn 13, this is the final corner normally on the Formula 1 circuit. Preining fastest overall in that first sector. Personal best dropped a bit of time in the second sector, but still plenty of time for him to try and gain it back as he heads through into the final couple of corners.
Yeah, good 8 tenths down in that middle sector. No obvious signs of a mistake, but
No.
maybe just being still a little bit conservative, good enough to move him up to P3.
Yeah, not a bad lap time there for Preining. I think he'll be pretty pleased with that. Just looking here at Mikkel Jensen, currently fastest of the lot, a 1:18.225. So he's in the box at the moment. I'm not sure what's going on because the team aren't doing a pit boost practice as it stands at the moment. So maybe just a few conversations going on between driver and engineer, working out what their plan is for the final 4 minutes of this session.
Yeah, he's just sort of parked there, isn't he?
Sat there waiting for a mate. Alex Dunn, meanwhile, out on track at the moment. The graphics you can see on your screen, by the way, will be pretty pivotal when we get into the race tomorrow, because we're going to be splitting the screens a bit more and having driver trackers, because we'll have different groups of drivers coming in at different points.
I wonder if they're just using the time to do some calculations in terms of pit loss, pit time loss and things like that, without doing the physical job of actually charging the car. They're just spending a bit of time seeing how that might work out for him.
He's one of the men at the moment, Oliver Rowland, just on the left-hand side of your picture, with Gabriele Mini out in his car at the moment. And, well, Ollie, of course, the winner of the Mexico City E-Prix a month ago, an emphatic victory after a late race safety car brought an opportunity for victory into the hands of Nissan, and Rowland took full advantage of it, passing some 4 cars in the space of nearly as many corners, and going on to take a very well-deserved victory, and the first non-Porsche or Jaguar-powered victory in a very long time. So
just watching them out on track, I'm not sort of seeing where the the sort of danger corner is. If they're running on their own, it looks like they've got the right amount of balance between, you know, entry speed and not running the walls on the exit. I think that will change when they get in racing and they're running side by side. But otherwise, it looks a pretty well-balanced race circuit.
Yeah, Kushmaini is on a attack mode lap at the moment, and he's gone fastest in the first sector, Tom, by nearly 7/10. So watching Tatiana Calderon come up to the line, that moves her up one position into 9th, but let's see how Mainey's lap unfolds.
Yeah, it's probably the closest to get to the wall there as we joined him on board, and a little rush of adrenaline for the driver when you never look at the wall, do you? You sort of sense it's there. You sense the limit and the width of the car.
You see a bit of instability as he hops over the curb there, just trying to get the car in the right direction, give it the right balance as he flicks it then through to the right-hander. You see Fred Bertrand on the right-hand side of your picture, team principal for the Mahindra team. And again, Kush pushing on here at the moment, currently 7th fastest. Where does it put him as he comes across the timing line then? It puts him to the top of the pile by a second over Mikkel Jensen, so that's a nice handy lap time there for the Indian driver. He'll be pretty pleased with that, as will the Mahindra team.
That's a very good lap, that, isn't it? 17.1 compared to... yeah, I think even Gwynn seems impressed with that.
Yeah, no, he's been very solid throughout this entire session. It looks there's been a strategy of how he's built up his run program, and every time when he's been given the opportunity to run the full power, he's delivered a time.
Yeah, he's quite experienced now, Coach. He's heading into his 3rd season of Formula 2. He's going to be with Dams this year. He's done quite a bit of testing with the Alpine Formula 1 team as well in recent times. Raced previously, of course, in a variety of junior formula. So he's got quite a bit of experience. Although this is, I think, only his 2nd run. He did the Berlin rookie test.
He did, yeah. He did that last year.
This is only his 2nd run at the Formula E car on a race weekend.
Yeah, let's have a look here at Mikkel Jensen. Then across the timing line for Jensen, personal best for him in these last couple of sectors. And he goes up to 2nd quickest with just over a minute to go in this session. And nice to see Mikkel doing quite well. Bit of an odd choice, if I may say so, from the Cupra Kiro team. He's a contracted driver for Peugeot in the FIA World Endurance Championship, and there was a few questions being asked as to why the team gone down that route, Porsche powertrain and so on. Is there a bit of a conflict of interest? But either way, Mikkel seeming to adapt to it quite well. First time, as we said, in a single-seater car for a good portion of time.
So this is Daniel Kvyat on what will be his final time lap. So they've left it late, and he's gone wide and deep there at turn 4. So
he got away with it.
He did get away with it.
What do you reckon? Lose a 10th, maybe a wee bit more?
Yeah, I think a little bit more, because it was quite wide, wasn't it? Away from the line. It's quite dusty offline, I imagine, at this early part of the weekend.
You can see just how much more grip he's got, though, especially he's deeping again, isn't he, into those chicanes. But that's the problem when you're in the attack mode, the 350 kilowatts of power. It's a bit counterintuitive because you actually have to brake earlier. You're carrying more speed into the corners. Yeah,
you arrive at the corner faster. That's what happens. Because of the four-wheel drive, you accelerate out of the previous corner quicker, and you got more power. So your speed at the end of the straight is faster than on the normal race mode, and therefore you have to brake earlier. Because guess what? The car, chassis, aerodynamics, tyres are all still the same.
So Kvyat then through the penultimate chicane, past the pit entry line, and then down and towards this final one. It will be a personal best lap time here for the DS Penske driver, but let's see where it puts him on the timing sheets as the checkered flag is now out. It waves for Kvyat then as he comes across the line. 8th quickest he is, and he goes up to 4th fastest at the checkered flag. Gabriele Mini also on a bit of a flyer here as well for the Nissan team. 2nd quickest he goes at the end of this session, but a flurry of lap times. The timing screen's lighting up like a rental car dashboard at the end of this session here.
I don't know how you drive your rental cars, but it sounds quite aggressively.
Is that not enough of a clue? So Kushmaini then fastest of the lot, but there's still a few lap times left to come in. What about Tatiana Calderon and Alex Dunn then? Dunn, I think, might have got slightly impeded there on his final flying lap by Calderon, because you saw that Calderon was not in an attack mode lap. There were no magenta lights at the back of the car, whereas Dunn was, and they may have just met at the wrong place at the wrong time on the circuit. And ultimately it means that Dunn does not improve, and he goes 11th quickest at the end of that rookie free practice session then. So there we are, done and dusted for rookie free practice here at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. Jamie Chadwick down in 9th place in the Jaguar TCS racing car. I was expecting maybe a little bit more from her, but perhaps the Jaguar team having a different run plan at the end of this session.
Yeah, that is the thing to see. We've got no idea how much they're given a free rein to just go out and show their skills, and how much of this is extended practice session, as we see contact there, actually, a bit of bodywork coming off, and a complete misunderstanding between the two drivers. This is a pet hate of mine. Anyone driving slowly on a racing line, I think that should be illegal. You know, lifting off on the straights in the appropriate way to allow overtakes, but clearly a big misunderstanding here.
Well, yeah, we were saying about a different run plan. That certainly was not part of the run plan there for Jaguar and also for Envision. Of course, two Jaguar-powered teams, Envision being the customer, and a look of disbelief on the faces of James Barclay and Nick Cassidy, and Nick having to just take the headphones off there. We think that may have actually been after the checkered flag, possibly, as well.
No, I think that I saw it come up yellow. Yeah, it might have been, but it was on the last time lapse anyway. I saw it come up yellow on the timing screen as Jamie jumps out of the car.
But the thing is that, obviously for Jamie, she should have had the race engineer on saying there's a faster car behind approaching, you know, just be careful of that, and maybe that was the case, or maybe it wasn't. Either way, the upshot is front wing damage on the number 16 Envision car.
Yeah, and I fully agree with DC. If you're going slowly on the racing line, you know, that if you're going slowly, get off the racing line, absolutely. But equally for Zach O'Sullivan, you know, in the game of risk versus reward on a rookie session, I'm not sure that was worth the risk to do a bit of damage, really.
Well, I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash, and I'm sure we'll be hearing a bit of debrief from these drivers at the end of this session, but not.
Absolutely, I think we will. And what an absolutely interesting rookie session that was, with 11 heading out there on the circuit. It was Kushmani along with Gabriel Mini, then Jensen, Pourchaire, Kvyat, Sullivan, Prining, Crawford, Chadwick, Calderon and Dune in the 11 running orders. Okay, we are going to be back in a couple of hours' time, and it will be for the actual free practice session with the drivers heading out there on the circuit as well. You can join us for that live on JB Motorsports 2 and on Formula E Zone this weekend as well. We'll be back on the main channel for JB Motorsports on Friday. Thanks for your company. We'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.